This video I wanted to check out just because it seemed really interesting. I increased my productivity by 10%, 10 times, or I'm turning my life into a game. This seemed really fascinating to me, and a bunch of views too. So let's check it out. Right.
When I was younger, I used to play a lot of video games, but as I grew older, they started taking too much time from my other activities. For this reason, I started to gradually reduce the time I spent playing them until I eventually quit. But recently, I decided to incorporate some more downtime into my schedule, and I gave video games another shot. This is when I remembered just how fun video games can be. It wasn't long before I was looking forward to the end of the day just so I could hop on the computer and play. But this also got me wondering, what exactly made those games so compelling?
I think I have a feeling I know where it's going to go with it. So, but if I had to guess, it would be the instant gratification that you get, like the dopamine levels for getting more gear, leveling up, looking like gearing up, getting transmog, like stuff like that. If I had to guess.
And could I somehow apply those game elements to other areas of my own life to make them more desirable?
That part's going to be
This is
interesting.
what I've learned. Most video games are structured in a way so that throughout the game our brain consistently releases dopamine. I'm sure many of you are already aware, but for those of you who don't know, dopamine is a neurotransmitter associated with wanting and desire. It's one of the reasons why we want to repeat certain behaviors over and over and why we have the motivation to pursue something. You could say that dopamine is kind of like a carrot on a stick.
Yeah,
Wherever the carrot goes, we want to follow. And video games are really good at constantly dangling this carrot right in front of you. Especially RPGs, also known as role-playing games where you level up and play a fictional character in a virtual world. These types of games
exactly.
can be particularly addicting because they have what I like to call a dopamine trail. Essentially, the game has a lot of different components that consistently trigger the release of dopamine over and over. This way we don't get bored and we want to continue playing. Now, I've identified 5 key elements that form this dopamine trail, which you can actually replicate in your own life. But just to clarify, I'll be using RPGs as an example as they resemble our lives the most. Not every single game has all the components I'm going to talk about, however they probably have at least a few. So let's take a look at those elements. Let's see how you can take control of the carrot and make your own daily activities
Chicken?
more
What the heck?
compelling. The first key element is that you always have a clear objective to work towards and you know what you should be doing. Maybe you need to kill a dragon or
Yeah, a clear objective to finishing that goal. Like the goal is the clear object. I see what he means by that. Like a lot of things you do outside of games isn't really like kill 10 of these and then you get rewarded, with gold or whatever.
rescue a princess. It doesn't matter. What's important is that you know in which direction you need to go. In real life, however, many of us don't really.
There's a lot of games that don't do that and a lot of people like them, but those are very niche games. While the more mainstream games do have like they show it on the map where it is you need to go.
Know what we're working towards. And while other people can set direction for us, it's not the same as when we set the path ourselves. Whether it's
To be fair, games are setting that path for you. You're not setting it. So I don't know where that argument comes into play.
running a marathon, reaching a certain
Maybe because you're the one accepting the quest? Maybe that's what he's referring to?
position at work, or writing your own book. Having a clear goal you're working towards gives your actions purpose, otherwise your efforts just feel meaningless. But while killing a dragon might be the end goal, the game doesn't really make you focus on that too much. Instead, it's broken down into shorter sub-goals that lead up to that big moment.
I see what
First, you
he's
might
saying.
help the king get his stolen jewelry back, then you help a wizard with his potion problem, etc. Whenever we finish something, no matter how mundane or small it might seem, we get rewarded with a sense of accomplishment. And the more we feel accomplished, the more we want to continue feeling that way. Essentially, this creates a loop where a tiny bit of success rewards us with dopamine and motivation to continue, which results into more success. Sure, we might have not killed the dragon yet, but we've still completed something that's leading in that direction. And that's all that matters, since as long as we continue doing that, eventually that big goal will be achieved. If you want to write a book, for example, your sub-goals might look something like this. Create a chapter outline, design a book cover, write 1000 words, edit 1 page. Of course, all of these can be broken down even further, but I think you get the general idea. The point is to kickstart the achievement loop and do something that will lead you towards the greater objective. Now, goals are also important because of the second key element that video games.
A lot of motivational videos mention that is whatever big goal you have in life, whatever it may be, break it down into smaller goals and then break those goals into even smaller ones. And that will allow you to keep on track with that overall goal much easier.
Games have, which is that progress is visible. Games make it very clear that you're improving by showing you that the experience bar is getting filled up. However, it never says you're 0.7% on your way to level 100. That would be demotivating. Instead, it shows you that you're 70% towards level 2. This visible progress gives you the necessary motivation to continue grinding forward.
Some quest bars show the actual lower percentage. It's just most people don't care and they don't look at it until they're towards the end of it.
It's very easy to justify playing a little longer just so you can reach that next level before logging out. But the thing is that usually there are multiple progress bars getting filled up at the same time, so that by the time you reach level 3 in one skill, you're almost level 5 in another. And when you reach
that's actually pretty rare for most games. That's like Skyrim kind of stuff.
that level 5, you're now close to level 4 in the other one. So you're made aware that you're constantly close to completing something, which makes you want to keep on playing. However, progress in real life is usually not that obvious and you must make it visible yourself. I found that one of the best ways to do that is by simply tracking your daily activities. During each day, make sure to take note of all the things you've done that led you towards your goals. If you wrote 500 words for your book, write it down. If you ran 3 miles for your training, write it down.
That's
If you
interesting.
studied for 1 hour, write it down. And if you saved $10 by skipping Starbucks, write it down. This way you make your progress, or lack of
I'm assuming that was a big one for him.
it, actually visible somewhere, and you can clearly see if you're getting closer to your goals or sub-goals. And when you see that you're close to accomplishing one of them, you'll be more motivated to continue moving forward just so you can reach that milestone. Now, knowing that you're progressing is also important because of the third key element, which is that games reward you for your effort. There is often some sort of prize when you reach a certain level or complete a quest, and these rewards serve as an incentive to complete your tasks. Would you bother killing a dragon if you didn't get anything for it? Probably not. But because there is a prize,
I mean, you might do it once, but you wouldn't do it again.
you keep completing those quests. Rewards are often one of the best motivators in real life as well, as when you anticipate getting one, your brain makes sure to release a lot of dopamine. In the back of your mind, you know that once you finish, let's say, studying for example, you get to enjoy a reward of your choice without any guilt, which can easily make you power through your task. But it has to be noted that in video games, the reward always rewards you back in some way. Once you defeat an enemy, you might get a stronger sword, which means you can now defeat bigger enemies. Essentially, the prize you receive makes the gameplay better for you, and it makes you want to continue playing. And this is something that a lot of us get wrong. When we eat healthy for 1 week straight and we
I think Ghostcrawler on the Riot MMO mentions that the reward system designer is one of the most important roles in an MMO. But I think that's in any game, and as he's saying, that's looks like it's going to be important in life.
go to the gym 5 times during that period, sure, we deserve a reward. But instead of having a reward that rewards us back, we usually do something that hurts the progress we've made. We reward ourselves by eating the whole cake while laying on the couch, which, if you think about it, isn't a smart move. Imagine completing a quest in the game and instead of gaining a level, you get penalized and your stats get worse. It doesn't happen. Yet in real life, we often
It can. There are plenty of games where if you die, you lose stuff.
do just that. We manage to save $500 and what do? We reward ourselves with a brand new phone, which we don't really need, or something of that nature. Instead, we should invest that money into an asset that will reward us back, that will allow us to make and save even more money in the future. Or for another example, if you like running, like me, you could
I mean, if you invested in something that turns out it wasn't a good investment and you don't get that money back, it's even worse than if you had spent it on a useless iPhone. Because at least the iPhone is in your hand, it's physical. This one, you could technically lose that money and never see any of it.
Could reward your consistency with new running shoes. That kind of reward makes the runs easier and it reinforces the habit. So think about your own life
That makes more
situation and
sense.
find a reward that rewards you back, or at least make sure it doesn't sabotage your progress like it usually does. But you might notice that the rewards in games aren't always the same. You don't always get a better sword, but instead you sometimes get a stronger armor, other times it's a new spell, etc. Which brings me to the fourth key game element: variety and novelty. Good games always have something new waiting for us. It could be new area unlocks, new enemies, or just new cosmetics. Our brains love variety, and as long as an activity has something novel to stimulate us, it remains attractive and satisfying. Imagine if instead of experiencing something new in the game, you would have to repeat the same level over and over. Most of us wouldn't find it fun. We would get bored of doing the same thing pretty quickly, and we would want to quit. And it's the same in our daily lives. If we want to stick to something long
It's
term,
an
it
interesting
helps if we
concept.
can incorporate something new into the activity. If you have a job, think back on the first day you spent there. The job probably didn't feel boring, instead it was most likely interesting. There were
A lot of that though is also like from a learning curve. Because when you're first starting a job, it's mostly learning, like you're training.
so many new people to meet and a lot of things to learn.
New people, I mean, yeah, that could be the case, but that's not always the case.
However, 1 year later, once all that novelty has faded, the job probably became boring and dull. That's because it became routine and now there's nothing new to experience. It's kinda
Yeah.
like repeating the same level in a game for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. You don't really have anything to look forward to since you already know what to expect. While I do encourage having some sort of a routine in your life, it's also good if you have some variation within that routine. So if you usually do the same work all the time, see if it's possible to take on a different project to switch it up a little bit. Preferably something that you're not fully familiar with, so the
To be fair, that's only for very, very few jobs out there where you get to kind of choose your own thing. Most jobs are chosen for you, and you're doing that same job in and out.
challenge is novel. Now, while you might not be able to have a direct impact on the way you do things at your job, you can always incorporate some new aspects that are still related to it, which you do have control over. Like befriending someone at the office who you don't normally interact with, maybe reorganizing your desk, or just going to a different restaurant to eat your lunch. As you can see, it doesn't have to be a massive change, nor does it have to be permanent. The point is to just have a new experience every once in a while. You can also spice up your workout routine by trying out a new exercise, or if you're still studying for school, try to find a different
What's up?
You won't let me troll you.
study location. Just look for a way to make your days slightly different.
What's round six?
Now the fifth and
Sure.
final key element that games have is that they consistently challenge you. The human brain loves working on and overcoming obstacles.
I mean, this is it me, or is that just basically the same thing he was just talking about?
But the difficulty has to match your current skill level, otherwise you won't enjoy them, nor will you want to do them. In other words, the challenge must be neither too hard nor too easy. When you start at level 1, you don't go fighting the biggest and the baddest boss right away. You would get defeated every time as it would be too difficult for your skill level. And because it would be too hard, you
Not to some Dark Soul players.
wouldn't want to continue playing. This is why games set you up against easier challenges first, those
Oh,
that
that's
you're
the
able
chicken.
to actually overcome. But once you get better at the game, the difficulty also ramps up. Otherwise, if you were to improve but the challenge stayed the same, you wouldn't want to continue playing. There is no fun if you're able to just effortlessly demolish everything in your way.
Can
You would
be,
quickly
just
get
not
bored
for
because
long.
the game would be too easy. The challenge has to feel at least semi-difficult so that when you overcome it, you can actually feel proud about it and get rewarded by that sweet, sweet dopamine. But in real life, we are only rarely faced with optimal challenges. Instead, most of the time, we're either overwhelmed or bored by them. If something feels overwhelming and you can't bring yourself to do it, chances are that it's above your current skill level. You need to take a step back and start slow at the beginning. Break that big task down into more manageable pieces.
That's also hard for jobs that where you're working directly with someone, like either the customer, the contractor, whoever it may be, like it's an actual person, because they don't understand that it is overwhelming to you. You're the person that's like your job, so why can't you just do it? They're not going to understand that their situation is very unique and therefore requires much more time. So,
Then you should tackle those pieces individually and focus on the easiest one first. This helps bring the difficulty down and get the momentum going at the same time. If something feels too easy, you must increase the challenge.
I think you did the coloring a little off here, like these two should be changed.
Ideally, you would want to skip the easy tasks, but sometimes they just have to get done. Personally, I increase their difficulty by imposing time limits on them. I give myself a time frame and try to do the task before the time runs out. This forces me to find a way to be more efficient, which also helps me get through it faster in the future. I'm still doing the same boring activity, but the time pressure ramps up the difficulty and makes it more fun. So try to match the difficulty to your skill level. You will find that whenever you're able to do so, you will be more engaged and the activity will be more compelling. By now, you probably have a much better understanding about what makes video games so addictive. And you might notice that if those elements are not present,
Didn't really learn too much here. I thought it would be more interesting, gonna be honest. A bit disappointed. Especially towards that last one, adding a time frame to it. It's like that's fine for some jobs, but a lot of jobs don't really have a end to them. So like even if you get that timing like crazy good, it doesn't really help the job. Like it kind of does, but I don't know. That's like saying if you had a very physical job, right? Like you're really gonna work all that much harder without any kind of pay increase. Like that's I don't know. That's weird. That's if you're working on your own stuff, I think, like your self projects. Then I would definitely agree with that. Um, yeah, I think it's like a lot of things other ones I've already talked about. So, well, that's all I'm going to be streaming for today because it's man, I don't even know if I'm going to upload these last two videos. They were not that interesting. I think I should just look into more Josh Dryface. To be honest, the conversations are way more uh, in depth and complex. I do agree. Like some of the things he says, like if you people don't know, it's pretty obvious. Um, Having goals, breaking them down into sub goals, and then those sub goals into even smaller goals, so that you can at least feel accomplishment on larger tasks is 100% going to help you do most things that are like you said, like making a book. Like just say, okay, I'm going to release a chapter once a day, once a week, once a month, whatever it may be, and I'm going to edit that chapter at least twice a week, twice a month, whatever it is. So, but stuff like that really does help. Um, did he talk about this one was weird? I don't know if I think that's in general. Like if you want to spice up your life, just do something you normally don't do. That could be literally across anything, not just work or anything, or things that are routine. So, yeah, some interesting things, but yeah, kind of same thing.
it's really see for.
All right, well, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I'll try to find some more videos to react to. This was not the best, but yeah. Take care. See ya. Bye.